Hey everyone, you are listening to Life in Full Send Athletes Reimagine, the podcast for athletes navigating life after sports. I am your host, Liz Hall, an athlete integration specialist and someone who deeply believes that who you are is so much bigger than what you do in sports. Every week, I sit down with former athletes who open up about their journey through navigating life beyond the jersey. Brains and brawn would describe my guest today. He was named on the Kentucky Top 20 Seniors list in football and an all-state selection in track when he anchored the 4x100 with the state championship team, all while maintaining the honor roll. He chose Wake Forest University to play college football, and after he graduated, he moved his talents back home to Lexington to dominate the flag football scene in Lex with a stint with the indoor football league that played downtown. He is generous with his knowledge as he coaches the youth and has proven himself in his career in the finance industry. Animal lover, foodie, car connoisseur. Everyone, I'm so excited to welcome Aaron Mason to the podcast. Aaron, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate that. Awesome intro, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. You did it, not for nothing. Those are your accolades. I'm just here reading it. So I love this first question because I want to know personally the story behind it. So when you were a kid, you made a deal with your mom. She said, do gymnastics and then you can play football. What was that conversation like? What was that all about?
Honestly, I remember it like it was yesterday. My father worked at Procter and Gamble at the time, and he came home because one of his buddy's sons played football, and I was a football nut. I watched it, breathed it, ran around with the football helmet, the whole nine all the time, right? And so he knew that that's what I wanted. And so when he came home, he had mentioned it, and I lit up. I was so excited. And then my mom was like, I don't like it. Like, there's big boys, you're gonna get hurt. What if they tackle you? And so she immediately shut it down. And then I made a deal that if actually it was the next day or a week later, something like that, he came back home again. One of his other friends' sons was doing gymnastics. So my mom was like, oh, you could do gymnastics. I'm like, I don't really want to do gymnastics, but fine, whatever. I just want to do something. And so the deal was if I did a year of gymnastics, I could play football when I was 8. So I did a year of gymnastics when I was 7, and actually fell in love with it. So I did that for like 3 or 4 years, and I got to play football when I was 8. So it worked out.
Such a good mama bear, right? I think that's so relatable to the parents because it's like, wait, and I love, you might get tackled. No, you're going to get tackled.
You're going to get tackled.
You're going to get tackled. Your body will. But like as a mama, it's like, oh gosh, can you put a bubble wrap around you?
Right.
Gymnastics, of course, has its own risks. So, but I guess at 7 in her mind, she was like, you're not going to be tumbling and going crazy, maybe. It felt safer.
That's the thing, though. I mean, yeah, gymnastics definitely is a super dangerous sport. I mean, the amount of injuries that come out of that. The fact that she felt like gymnastics was safer, debatable, but it was fun. I loved it.
Did it surprise you that you loved it? And what did you love about it?
It was competing. Anything you make up any sort of competitive scenario for me. More often than not, I'm gonna bite, and it's going to be a competition. Doesn't matter what it is, but no, I really enjoyed the competitiveness. It was something different and new that I've never done before, outside of just doing cartwheels or something like that in the backyard. But I was pretty good at it. So, it was just one of those things where it was an untapped talent that I had. It wasn't my passion by any means, but it definitely taught me a lot of things that transitioned over to football, especially in my earlier years, with balance, strength, discipline, like all of those things that I hadn't otherwise had outside of, the household, really helped me get ready for the start of my football career.
You know what I love about that too, that you spoke into is untapped talent, because most of us sit with untapped potential. And the only way we can find it is by getting uncomfortable and doing something new, doing something we have no idea about, starting a podcast. That's the way of discovery. And I think the key is falling in love with that process of trying and deciding. I say treat everything like dating. Don't marry anything that you don't want to, but we have to date things to find out what we don't need, which is
Yeah,
sometimes as important as finding what we do. And so it's the
agreed.
same with trying new things of activities, because I think when we go through identity loss with as an athlete, because we've identified with that, because we've worked for that, we're very clear on who we are showing up in that. The fear comes with, well, that's all I know. But it doesn't mean that's
Hmm.
all you are, right?
Right,
So it's
right.
all you've known or all you've, in your words, tapped into. But there is more. And it's
Hmm.
being brave. It is brave to try anything new. So thank you for that. That was beautiful. I know, I feel like you're like the mayor, the without the politician, you're the mayor of Lexington. But how is the transition to college football? Were there struggles that you remember going from high school to college football? And can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think anybody that you talk to that, has been successful in their high school careers at whatever sport that they've done, and then you go to college and you're with a ton of other talented people who also were the mayor. You're coming around a lot of great talent. And I remember seeing a meme on the internet where it's, and I'm going to butcher it a little bit, but something to the effect of, in college, you have a future litigation attorney, but you also have a future Hall of Famer. And they're on the same field playing against each other, and you may not know who's who at that particular time. There's such a dynamic there. But one of the biggest things that I had to kind of come to grips with, and I saw a lot of people struggle with, is the fact that you're no longer the superstar. You have to reinvent yourself all over again. You have to impress coaches all over again. And a lot of times athletes fail because they can't handle that blow to their ego. I think honestly, ultimately, that's mostly what it is. It's a huge blow to your ego to go from being the top athlete on your team and your school and your city and your state to now being, I don't want to say a nobody, but you have to do all of that all over again to earn that respect, to earn your position, to be a starter. So I saw a lot of athletes fail because they weren't up to the challenge of having to be great again. So that's honestly probably the biggest thing for that I remember coming in was, how do you navigate nobody knowing you? How do you navigate coming onto a college campus and you're just, you play football? Like, yeah, I do. You should know who I am. But they don't, and they shouldn't know who you are. You haven't done anything yet. So it's a huge ego shock when you first get to campus and you're just a nobody.
Also, it's not even learning how to be great, it's learning how to be great at that next level. So
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
a sale where they're like, you're only as good as your last sale. And it's like in college sports, you're only as good as your last practice, because you
Hmm.
will not play if you don't show up. That's just how it is. Where at home in high school, you can rely on your reputation. You can rely on, you've probably known coaches for years. There's a
Yeah.
certain rapport that's built where you have to create that all over again. And it's interesting because I think a lot of athletes too, when they don't want to rise, because that's what you're being called to do, right? You're being
Right.
asked to grow. And often when people aren't ready to, then they'll blame everything else, right? They'll blame, oh, it's just a
Yeah.
crappy coach, or
Yeah.
my teammates suck. It's like, but right. So it's something to be aware of as soon as we start blaming other people, there's probably something we're avoiding within
Yeah.
ourselves that we're not looking at or we're not owning.
Yep. Well, to that point, and I'm glad you said that because, when you are asked to do something more than what you currently are, your work ethic will be exposed. And
Mm.
you see that a lot with younger athletes where they were able to get through. I was one of them. I had a good work ethic, but I also had an athletic ability that carried me through most of my life. It's like Booby Miles said in Friday Night Lights, all I got to do is show up. So it's like you go through that phase through most of your life, and then you get to a point where you actually have to work to be better.
That's gold. That it's gold. Share with me the feelings you experienced when college football was over, mentally, emotionally, even physically.
The honest answer, I was relieved. I really was. I was done. Mentally, I was done. Emotionally, I was done. Physically, I was still very much able to play. I was blessed to get out with minor injuries, nothing that was life altering. But yeah, I was done. It was from 8 years old through college, no years, no days off of football. And it takes a toll on your body, and so after my last game, my senior year, I had zero intentions on doing pro days, comp, nothing. I didn't care. I was ready to just start my life and figure out what was next. So I took a year off and I missed it. I mean, it was like a bad breakup, like I got ghosted by my girlfriend and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm struggling, right? Like, how do what is my identity? That's the whole point of this. But so I took a year off and I was like, I can't. A bunch of my buddies were going on doing other things with football, either playing in the NFL or various leagues, Canada, whatever, and watching them play and seeing their successes. I was like, it hit me. I was like, man, you still have the talent, you still have the abilities, and God gifted you with these tools and these talents. Why waste them? There's going to be a day where you can't. There's going to be a day where you physically will not be able to play this game that you love. But now is not that time. You still have the ability to do it. So do it. Milk it for all that you can. And then when you can't do it anymore, that's when you hang it up. Now is not the time. So that's when I decided to get back in it and jumped into the Arena Football League. And that was so fun. I love those days. But yeah, it was a year. So I guess I really just needed some mental clarity and some time off before I decided to jump back in. But yeah, right after college, I just was ready to be done with football forever.
Had you made it in your mind that you wanted to go pro at any point in college? Was there, or high school, was there a point where you're like, I think I want to do this? Or did you always think this is temporary and I'll find a job?
It wasn't until after I graduated at some point that I realized that we all have our why for wanting to do something or to accomplish something. My why wasn't ever the NFL. I remember thinking, when I was a little kid, like, I want to grow up and play football on TV. I want my name on the back of my jersey. That was my why. My why didn't go past college necessarily. Sure, did I want to play in the NFL? Who doesn't, right? But that wasn't my big pie in the sky dream for me. Nor was I delusional to the point that I thought I was ever going to actually make it in the NFL. Again, I was talented. I didn't think I was NFL level talent. And that's okay. We know the statistics around that. So I wasn't delusional in the fact that I didn't, or I think that I didn't have to have some sort of a plan in place. But again, that was just never really my reason for doing what I did and working as hard as I did. Again, my why was I just wanted to play on ESPN, maybe make a top 10 highlight here and there, but I just wanted my family and my friends to be able to say, "Hey, I saw you playing on TV last weekend." That was my life.
I love that. When you, on a physical level, right? You train at a high level, you are doing two-a-days, you're conditioning. How did your body adapt when you stopped that? Or were you always aware, like, okay, wait, I'm not doing what I did? And did you immediately change that? Tell me about it.
Well, I laugh because it does happen because you eat so much because you have to, right? And then, yeah, you can't eat that way anymore, nor can you eat what you want anymore and not suffer the consequences. So it was definitely a lesson learned through pictures. You see yourself finally in a picture and you're like, why didn't anybody tell me that like my face was fat? Like, so, but yeah, it definitely took some trial and error of figuring out like what your new caloric intake needed to be to maintain. I tell you, it's funny. There's a phenomenon with football players, and I don't know what it is or why, but for whatever reason, the skilled position players, after they're done playing, gain weight. The linemen lose weight. Don't know why that is, but it is 1,000,000% true. There are a ton of guys that I played football with, high school mostly, some college too. And you ask them what position they played, you would never have guessed it based on, but But it's, it's life, right? We all get old, things happen. But yeah, it's such a weird phenomenon of offensive linemen and defensive linemen losing weight and then skill position guys gaining weight. But yeah, it definitely took some time. And now I'm such a nutrition, like, I don't know. I'm obsessed with food in multiple ways now. So it has changed me in the way that I treat food and think about food.
I'm getting my master's and PhD, so that immediately I'm like, that there's a hypothesis, right? There's a plan, right, to go into that. When we play competitive sports, we're so often taught push through pain, and we also associate that with emotional pain because the brain actually is not that smart. And so it says, okay,
Mm.
when pain comes in any form, this is what we do, right? It's kind of like A plus B equals C, but it doesn't take into consideration where the A comes from, where the B comes from, and the output we're trying to get. After coming out of football, what did you have to unlearn about success, toughness, and even self-worth?
That it's okay to take a break. It's okay to give yourself some time. It's okay to put yourself first. And the longer that you are on this earth, the more that you realize that that's more important than ever. When you're playing, you don't really have an opportunity to be hurt. You don't have an opportunity to take a vacation day. You don't have those luxuries. You sit down, someone else comes in. And that's just the way the game is, right? Like that's where the Tom Brady's of the world come into play because there's a lot of talent that is sitting on a bench somewhere that is again untapped that nobody knows and all it takes is one opportunity. I was a product of that myself when I played arena football. So you have to play through those moments, that pain, but then you start to realize, later on in life at what expense. I know a lot of guys with bad knees, bad backs, some that have had some major brain issues over the years too. Again, you're just taught to be a gladiator. You hear that term all the time, be a gladiator, be a gladiator. But after football, I think that's why college athletes are sought after so much from employers is because they know, like, we will run through a brick wall. You give us direction, we'll do it. Right. So, like, we're coachable, we're trainable, and we'll work just the way we did when we were in college playing sports. But that wears on your mental health. It wears on just your health in general, that sort of stress. So really having to unlearn that it's okay to take a break and to take care of yourself is like the biggest thing that like you have to just condition yourself to say, you know what? I'm going to take a day off, not because I'm sick, not because I'm going anywhere, but just because I want to sit at home and do what I want to do during the work week because I need that for myself today.
We have that ability to rewire, but how we rewire our brain stays the same. So if we carry a belief system that we have to work at 100% every day, all day, no days off, that grind, the same neural pathways that were built to believe that can be rewired to believe something different. And
Yeah.
so that's what you've done. You rewired your brain to say, this is what I knew, and it's not serving me, because that's what we check in on, right? My friend just had this conversation yesterday. He said, every thought I ask, is it binding me or liberating me? And it's the same thought process of habits, because all it is a habit. It's a very ingrained habit. It's a very deep habit. We are in a habit of putting our bodies last or checking in on our emotional health, if at all, but last, making sure everybody else is okay. This happens a lot with women, of
Yeah.
making sure everybody else is okay. And then
Yeah.
if there's time, which is so laughable, right? Then I'll check in. So thank you for speaking on that, because, mental health is more spoken about, praise God, because it's real, and the human experience is emotional. It is to
Yeah.
feel all of the feelings, but pushing them away because they're uncomfortable, pushing them away because they're less than ideal. This is what causes suffering. It is what causes diseases in the body, because they don't go anywhere. Us trying
Yeah.
to ignore them doesn't make them go anywhere, except they're stored in the
No.
body, and they will come out, because that's all they
Yeah.
want, is to be felt. So if we are not acknowledging them in whatever capacity that is, unfortunately, they come back to visit. They're like the cousin you don't want to see, comes at the holidays, and you're like, here we go. Didn't like you then,
All
don't
right.
like you now.
Yep.
but
Yep.
they want to be noticed. But
Mhm.
with sports, success equals winning. It actually doesn't usually matter how hard you practice, because if you're not winning, guess what? Nobody's talking to you, right? This is the culture of winners. We want winners. We celebrate winners. So if success equals winning in sports, what is your definition of success today?
Peace is my definition of success today. And that's just plain and simple. I value not being stressed more than anything. I value my home life. I love to just be home. This is my happy place, right? This is my dogs, my cat, my girlfriend. This is just where I belong. And I don't get me wrong. I love to go out, we travel, we do all the things. But for me, I think you'd kind of alluded to it earlier, but like my mantra now is that if it doesn't serve me, let it go. And that took so long. That took so long to realize and get to a point because, especially with arguments, like when you argue with someone, like you want to get that last word in, right? You want to make sure that they know that you're right. And it took forever for me to just be at peace with letting them think whatever it is that they want to think and me going on about my business because it didn't serve me anymore to be right or to carry on that conversation. So I've gotten to a point where like winning for me is if I can get through a day and just feel that I haven't wronged someone and that I've been kind to myself. That's a win.
There is so much there. So let's unpack some. I heard something the other day. It said on a day-to-day basis, because you've gone through some health stuff, on a day-to-day basis, we have 1,000 problems. And when we have a health issue, we now have only one, right? There is now one problem that needs to be solved before anything else can even come into consciousness. And I thought that was so profound because it's so simple. And we don't think about our health until we have to, right? But that's a choice too. In arguments, it was, there was a guy that had put up a video and it said, because we talk about it, seek to understand, not to be understood. And at 41, when I saw that, is when I got it, right? Like I was like, because I already know what I know. I already know my lens, because that's where we're all talking out of, right? We're all talking out of our past experiences, our past perspectives, which are now bleeding into the present if we choose. Seek to understand, not that you have to fix it, that you have to change anything. That in itself was liberating, because the phrase, would you rather be happy or right, kind of comes into play, right? It's like, I can fight this and be right. And at no point do they agree, by the way, but it's just like this surrender. It's like they're like, I give up. Or most importantly, it's not moving us forward, right? When we start to live intentionally, the conversations with people are much different. When we live with intention of loving people, right? Of loving people, being kind, we move different. We have different conversations and we react differently, which I had somebody tell me a reaction is often an overreaction. And for me, that was very true. My goal, if you're an overreactor, anybody out there, the goal is to stop. Because your body tells you first. The body's the most wise. The brain is not smart. The body, when we get angry, right? I can feel my blood pressure raise. My heart will start pounding. I'll get hot. Okay, so that's my cue. Just like chill and breathe. Like my body's telling me I'm about to overreact. so then my mind can kick in and be like, okay, got it. Don't do that.
Right.
But 41, that's the deal. With age comes wisdom, God willing, if we do the work. But that's why I think you're such a beautiful voice to have on this, because you felt the feelings that people are feeling now that are in college, and you're on the other side of it to say, yes, and that's such a profound thing. Yes, and you can be scared and excited. You can be relieved and miss it. That and is, that's the human experience. That's the thing. There's a spectrum there. It's not exclusive. So that's the gold. If a listener is feeling lost, stuck, or like they don't know who they are without sports, what would you say to them?
For me, I would say my answer was getting into, casual sports scene here with flag football, the co-ed flag football that we have here, and just getting around a bunch of other athletes who literally are struggling with the exact same thing. And I'm sure most major cities have, co-ed adult recreational leagues, whether it's football, kickball, basketball, whatever. There's all kinds of stuff out there. So it's almost like a little bit of a support group, to be honest with you, because there's a lot of ex-male and female college athletes out there. And I know specifically one of the girls on our team who's younger verbally mentioned that she struggled with her identity post-college. And being on this team really helped. It also was something that, like, she came from a very successful college career on a very successful college basketball team, right? So winning, again, is in her DNA. Thankfully, I'm a part of a very good team and we win a lot. So that helped with her transition too. But yeah, I think honestly, it's almost like I said, having a support group of former athletes, whether it be you guys getting together and playing in these, adult rec leagues, that just kind of keep you active. It keeps you moving. And again, I'm 40, but I have the ability to still be able to do it. And it gives me a platform and a place to be able to do so with other athletes. It's just fun. It's fun. So I would say that, but also just kind of taking an inventory of what it is that does interest you post sports. What was it that interested you, that you really didn't get to dive into? Is it art, painting? There's all kinds of things that I know athletes are really, really good at. I know a ton of athletes who have a lot of really great entrepreneurial skills. There's all kinds of things that we can do and evolve into post collegiate athletic sports. It really is just a matter of allowing yourself to kind of tap into it and not being afraid of failing. I think that's the other thing too, is we're so used to only being successful for the most of our lives. Stepping out is scary, and that fear of failure stops a lot of people from actually even getting started, as we know. So, while you're young and you can take risk and still bounce back financially, if you do fall on your face, who cares, right? You might have a car payment and a cell phone bill right now at this point. Actually, times are different. I forget. Times are way different. Never mind.
Easy,
But still,
Grandpa.
you're young. Take advantage of some of the opportunities that you can take advantage of now and still do while you're young and get that good jump start on it. So that would probably be my advice.
While you're young.
Me saying this to myself when I had just graduated college, like, man, shut up. No one wants to hear that. Whatever. So it really, like, you just kind of got to go through it to get through it, and you'll find it. You just got to do it.
We can hear stories. That's the deal. I think that's parents' biggest struggle is they try to ease the pain of the lesson that's required for the journey.
Right.
We can hear something. Somebody could tell me, "Hey, stop drinking." For 1,000 years, but until I do it and destruct, will I not learn my own lesson? It's everybody has their own lessons, and you're right.
Yeah.
And this certainly isn't to talk to anybody, right? It's, hey, what would have helped you navigate, or what did help you navigate? And I think that's really wonderful. And I also think it's a separate conversation of if you were injured and you can't play. What you spoke on is, yeah, there are other parts of you that you had to repress for athleticism. I know that there is a 400-pound linebacker that loves to dance. Okay. I know that.
Yeah. Yep.
They want to be in the ballet. Okay. I know it. And giving that permission to say, now is the time. Now you have the time. This is part of a perk of
Yeah.
that graduation, we'll call it. So thanks for
Yep.
speaking into that. Thank you so much for being here. This podcast is for those who have experienced feeling lost and uncertain about who they are when the jersey comes off. And my hope is that you're inspired by stories of reinvention and rediscovery of those who created a life just as meaningful, if not more, than the time spent in the jersey. The game ends, your story does not. And if you're looking for a new team, you are welcome here. Please do not go back into silence. Join the community, and we're here for support. Aaron Mason, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you again for having me. I really appreciate your time, and it was good talking with you.
You too. Thank you.